I'd be grateful even if I was in a scooter, because I'd still be alive. But he's double blessed me. I'm not in the scooter, and I'm moving around, and I'm working, and as much as I ever have, I have my right mind. And I'm grateful for it. May his name be praised, and all glory and honor be given to him. God, we want to say thank you tonight. We're going to read your word, and we're going to talk about your word. And I pray, Lord, that you help us to turn our ears and the eyes of our heart to want to do what you say. We know that you created the earth. You made time. You made the heavens. You made the stars that are even so far away we can't see them. And you made them, even though we can't see them, you put them there for us. And we know that you control the horizontal, you control the vertical, you control everything. And you do it so that we can be blessed. So we give all praise and honor to you. And what we want to do back, because you gave us all those things, is we want to honor you with the way we live our lives. And we want our prayers to be sweet to you. And we want what we think, we want our thoughts to be a gift to you. And we want, when we move our feet, we want to move our feet where you want them to go. And we know, Lord, that most people want to make themselves happy. But what we want to do is make you happy, because you deserve it. It's in the name of Jesus that we pray. Amen. So, Pastor asked me to teach tonight, and so I prepared something. And we're going to have some discussion. I'm going to start, though, with a story. It's a true story. There was a young man, and we'll call him Lenny, just so you can follow the story, what Lenny does. Well, Lenny was a young man living, he was a part of a church. He was living with some other brothers in the church. And because Lenny caused some problems, he wasn't paying his rent and some other things like that, and had various problems. Eventually, the brothers said to Lenny, "We want you to move out." And Lenny said, "Well, I don't have a place to go." And they said, "Well, may God bless you. We want you out." And they gave him some time. He had to get out. And so Lenny was not going to have a place to stay. Well, there was another brother, and let's just call him Ricky. And Lenny didn't have a job. He was supposed to be in school. He wasn't doing well in school. He had a lot of trouble. There was this other brother named Ricky who was living with some other brothers. Now, Ricky was a high-level manager with a very professional company, which back in that company doesn't exist anymore, but it was a high-tech company called Digital. They're gone. And Ricky was very responsible. He, made big money and had a lot of, things going for him. And Ricky was about to get married. But there were 6 months left on his lease. But he was engaged to be married in a few weeks. So what he did was, Ricky went to the brothers he was living with and said, "Look, I'm going to have to move out because I'm getting married and I'm moving in with my wife. But I know I have 6 months of my lease left, so I'm going to go ahead and pay those 6 months in advance. Here's the money for my part of the lease for the rest of my time of my lease." What do you think of that? Responsible. Is it fair? Yeah. You signed the lease with some guys. You hold up your end. You're not going to live there. But you say, well, I'm the one that chose to get married, so I take care of it. I'm not leaving you guys hanging out to dry. And that's the kind of guy Ricky was. And Ricky found out that Lenny didn't have a place to stay, and he felt for him. Now, you ever been around anybody in your life that's irresponsible? Yeah. Do you still feel for him? I do. Yeah. And he felt for Lenny. Ricky felt for Lenny. He said, so he went to Lenny and he said, look, I've already paid my rent for the next 6 months. And I know you don't have a place to stay. So I've already talked to the brothers, and I'm going to let you stay in my room. And now you're still going to have to take care of yourself after 6 months, but that gives you 6 months to figure out what to do with yourself. What do you think of that? Generous. I mean, did he have to do it? No. Was he maybe a little bit like not making Lenny, sometimes when you mess up, people have to let you, suffer the consequences. So he was helping Lenny not suffer the consequences, but it was still very generous. And he asked the brother, he didn't just tell Lenny, he asked the other brothers, would it be okay if I did it? And they agreed to it. Okay, so there you go. Well, Lenny lived in the place for 6 months until the lease expired, and by then the brothers there were tired of him. They were ready for him to go, because it wasn't just that he didn't pay his rent. He had some issues, yeah. But Ricky had agreed to. He told Lenny, I have a couple things I'm gonna just leave in the room that I'm letting you stay in until I get a chance to move them out. So after 3 or 4 months, he moved those things out. So when the lease expired, Lenny didn't have a place to live again. So Lenny went to Ricky and said, you owe me such and such amount of money. He did. And Ricky was like, what? Owe you money for what? He said, because I let you store your stuff in my room. Yeah, but that's my room now, and you stored your stuff in my room, so you got to pay me so many dollars for storing your stuff in my room. And he was serious about it now. He came to me. I was married, had kids, all that. He came to me to complain that Ricky wouldn't give him the money. Okay, what's the point of my little story? My point of my little story is, if you don't believe that humans can come up with a justification for anything, then you have your eyes and your ears closed. You are not paying attention. Because men, humans, me, you, given the proper motivation, we can come up with a justification for anything. Anything. And not only that, when we finish telling our story, so I'm telling it on Lenny, but I can do the same thing. When you finish telling your story, it can even be persuasive. It can make you stop and think, well, maybe Ricky does owe Lenny some money for letting him store his stuff in the room that Ricky paid for, that Lenny got kicked out of the other place, and he didn't have where to live, and Ricky just let him live there for free. Maybe he should pay it. No, but you gotta wait till you hear Lenny tell his story. See, when you finish, we humans, we are incredible at telling stories. And somebody says, "Oh no, Hope is over here going, she got a look on her face like, homie, don't play that." But when we finish explaining, well, you see, hold up now, hold on now, let me explain. Hold on. You see, it was like this, and so and so and so. So when you finish, we can be persuasive that pigs can fly. And when you said pigs can't fly, but when you finish talking to the slickest talking The slickest talking lawyer or preacher, he can have you believing that pigs can't fly. And you might be like, well, I used to believe pigs. And why is that? Because we humans, me, you, we are incredibly talented at forming arguments and persuading people when we have a dog in the fight. We don't just give up with no. So because of this, you got to stop when you hear something. Say, hold on. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. You got to be able to think on your feet. You know, right now there's a big thing that, I forgot what they said. It was Best Buy. I forget, there were 2 or 3, I think eBay, Best Buy, and something else. People call and they say they're from Best Buy and that you have some money that you have on their account that you're supposed to, that you're entitled to, and that if you just do so and so and so and so, and when they finish, they convince someone to send them some money in Bitcoin to get that money out of their account, and it's not really Best Buy, it's not really eBay. They're good at it. UPS, yes. Yeah. So humans, and by humans, I am a human. Humans are incredibly skilled at persuading people, even things that are up. If you thought about it 2 seconds, you'd be like, this is obviously wrong. But that's because it's not just the content of what we say. It's that we are you take a group of monkeys and you take them to Mars and you drop them off. You come back a month later, they're going to be all dead. You take a group of humans, you drop them off at Mars, you come back, they're going to have a bar, they're going to be like selling used equipment, they're going to have an electric plant, they're going to, have they're going to be growing weed, they're going to have it all. We are incredible. We're like God. We're not God, but we're like him. So because of this, we are very capable at presenting persuasive arguments. And this applies to everything, including the Bible. So you have to be as smart as the guy trying to run a hustle. If you're not, you're going to get hustled left and right every time you turn around. And even if you're really good at avoiding a hustle, you're still going to get hustled every now and then because somebody's going to catch you off guard. And so tonight, I want to talk about one of those hustles that people do. And the topic is men that want to have sex with men and women that want to have sex with women. You know this, I don't know if you've heard, but that's an issue in our culture. Anybody heard about this? You can't help but hear about it because it's like, if it's a topic you're like, well, whatever, I don't care about none of that. It's in your face all the time, all day. I don't watch television, but I still hear about it. I don't listen to the news, but I still hear about it. You just can't help but hear about it. And so tonight I want to talk about what the Bible has to say about it. And the reason I want to talk about it, now I don't know about those of you out in Facebook land. I don't know, we take tonight. By the way, may God bless you in Facebook land. And I hope that tonight there's something that's said that's useful to you. I wish I could see you. I can't see you, but I can see you in my mind. And I'm glad you're joining us tonight. And for those of you that are physically here, glad you're here too. And for those of you that aren't here right now, either online or in person, but you're listening to this in the future, I love you too. And we're glad you're joining us in the future. I'll catch up. I'll be there soon. Not there yet. My son asked me one time, he said, would you like to see a picture of me in the past, Dad? I said, no, I'd like to see a picture of you in the future. So, you have to have answers because this topic comes up. And it may make your blood boil, or it may upset you, or it may bother you, or it may make you really happy, I don't know. But if you're going to talk about this with people, and you want to talk about what the Bible has to say, you have to have answers. So in order to have answers, you first have to listen to what the other side says. So the first step to answering something that you object to is to listen to what the other people are saying. You gotta hear them. You gotta close your mouth. Hear them. Think about it. Because that's what you're asking other people to do. You're asking for them to hear what you have to say and to consider maybe that they're wrong and that you might have something new to offer. But if you're not willing to do that, then people are not going to listen to you because they're going to be like, you're just doing this, but you're not hearing me. So you got to hear me. So I want to tell you, because I have listened to people that have the other point of view from the Bible. Now, I want to tell you some of the things that they think. First, though, I would like to tell you briefly about my own background. I have never, to me, I like the women's. I mean, I'm just going to say, I never wanted to be with a man. I like women. I like women too much. Okay? I like them a lot. So that's my area of self-control, is to control myself with the women's, because I like women a lot. A whole lot. Not just a little bit. But I remember when I was a little boy, one of my cousins, who was much older than me, got married. And then a little while later, he was, somebody I liked. He was a good guy. I liked him a lot. He actually just died about 3 weeks ago. His son called me, told me he died, and they're going to have a service in a few weeks. And I'm going to go to it whenever it is. But anyway, he got married, and his wife was really nice. But then sometime later, they got divorced. And I remember my mom and dad telling me, I was kind of a little boy, they said, yeah, she ran off with another woman. And I remember thinking, what? I mean, I'm sad they're getting divorced, but that didn't make any sense. She ran off with another woman? How do you even, what is that? I remember thinking, that is just the strangest thing. Why would a woman run off with another woman? It just baffled me. And I remember thinking about that for years, like, what is that? Why would somebody do that? That is really very peculiar. Not to me, it didn't make me mad or upset. I was just like, what does that even mean? When men get with women and women get with men, they don't get with. And I wasn't even, it was so young, I wasn't interested in girls yet. And I remember thinking, no, I don't get that. And this was a long time ago. It wasn't that long ago because I'm not very old, but it was a short while ago. But so anyway, then I'll tell you, I didn't follow Jesus, wasn't interested in following Jesus, and some people helped me to want to follow Jesus. There were 3 people in particular. One of them was a man who was open about the fact that he had been with men, and he was repenting of that, And he was really the key person that helped me become a Christian. He died about a year ago, 2 years ago. I love this man. He really helped me find Jesus. And he was open about the fact that he had been with men and he was working and repentant of that. It was obvious that it was something, just his mannerisms, etc., were, some of that mannerisms he developed when he was chasing men, he still had. But I loved him. I still love him. And, that's the person who helped me become a disciple of Jesus. And he struggled with it even after that. But he was fighting to win that battle. And I've been around many other people who have overcome it, people who are deep in it. The way I like women and women have liked me, and the way I look at it is if I'm attracted to a woman, then if there's a man who likes men, I'm not surprised if a man's attracted to me. I know a lot of guys some guy tries to come on to them, they're like, oh, there's something wrong with me. No, if women like you, the men that like men are going to like you too, so fine. I mean, whatever, So I've had lots of men, just like some of you don't talk about it, but I've had men come up to me and say, hey, let's me and you get together. I'm like, homie, I'm not a switch hitter. Sorry. I don't swing that way. But I'd like you to come to church with me. I had a guy at Walmart a few years back after I moved here. He was clearly all excited to see me. And I invited him to come to church, and he was like, no, I don't think so. I was like, well, I see that you're all excited about meeting me. And bro, I'm not. I ain't about that. But, may God bless you. And you come to church, and I'm going to hook you up with some people to give you more than what you're looking for. So I'm sharing with you how I feel about it. To me, I have Elder Doggett talked on Sunday. What did he say? You're evil. He looked at y'all right straight in the face. He wasn't like, you're evil and you're not, but you're evil and you're not. He looked at us and he said, you're evil. You're evil. And I'm evil. So for me, when I meet another evil person, I feel a kinship with them. I'm like, I'm not necessarily going to join them in their evil, but I feel like, yeah, I'm evil too. I share that with you. And that's how I feel emotionally toward people who are engaged in homosexual conduct. So that's my little story. So I want to tell you some things that people who, because I listen to them, I want to tell you some things that people that want to justify being homosexuals from the Bible, one of the things they say. They go to 1 Samuel chapter 18, verses 1 through 3, which I won't read, but it talks about how David and Jonathan loved each other. It says that David loved Jonathan more than his own self. So people say, see, they had some side action going on with each other. There it is right there. See, when you love somebody like yourself, that means David and Jonathan were getting it on. Okay. 1 Samuel chapter 18, verses 1 through 3. Yeah. So that's one of the things they say. See, so there's proof in the Bible. Another thing they say is they say that Jesus hung out all the time with 12 men. That's who he spent all his time with, all day, every day. 12 men. And he loved them men. He told them how much he loved them all the time. He loved them. And if you look with me in John chapter 3, John chapter 13, not 3. John chapter 13. they use this text. It's in verse 25. Elder Doggett, would you? No, no, that's not. I'm going through our scripture. Elder Doggett, in just a second, if you wouldn't mind reading that for us, I'd be grateful. It's verse 25. Let me make sure I have it right. Yeah. You can go back to verse 24 and 25, please. Chapter 13.
Chapter 13.
Yes, sir.
Chapter 13, verse 25.
Start in verse 24.
Verse 24.
Jesus just told them that there's somebody that's going to betray him.
Verse 24. Simon Peter therefore beckoned to him that he should ask who it should be of whom he spake. He then, lying on Jesus' breast, said unto him, Lord, who is it?
There you go. See, they're laying all over each other. They're having dinner and they're all laying down, laying on top of each other. Now that may offend you. In fact, probably most people in the room, I know most of you pretty well, and you probably may make your blood boil a little bit to read this text suggesting that Jesus had a homosexual relationship with his apostles. But you see, when you're dealing with people who don't believe in the Bible, or who use the Bible as a weapon to twist it for their own purposes, you got to tell your blood pressure. Keep it real. Stay calm. Because see, when people start coming up with crazy things like this, that means they're close to being one for Jesus. Because when you have to grasp at straws that hard, that means you realize you are on thin ice. But this text is a text that people use to suggest that Jesus had a homosexual relationship with the 12 apostles. Okay. Wanda looks like she's about to throw up. Sure. Sure. Okay. I had a teacher in university who used to say, some arguments only need to be stated to be refuted. And this, I think, would be one of those. This is not an uncommon argument. Another thing they say, well, let me just comment about those two texts and other texts like them. So, I'm a big believer that when we read the Bible, we have to read what the text does say, not what I read into the text. The problem is that sometimes we find texts that we either believe or have been told or want to believe that it says something it doesn't say, and we get used to reading into text things that aren't there. And so then when somebody else does the same thing, it catches us off guard. We don't know what to do because we're used to reading into the text something it doesn't say, that we think it implies, and therefore, because I think it implies it, it does imply it. But that's just your thought. Like, I'll give you an example. So, I've heard it often said that when Saul, not King Saul, but when Saul, who we know as Paul, that when he became a Christian, he changed his name to Paul. That like he became a Christian, he said, okay, I don't want to be known by the name Saul anymore. I'm now going to call myself Paul. Where does the Bible say that? I'm going to save you some time. Nowhere. Lots of people have multiple names. You do. is a Roman name, and Saul is a Hebrew name. So I'm not going to say they were both his name. I'm just going to say nowhere in the Bible does it say, hey, when Saul became a Christian, he decided to repudiate his past life. It does say that. And therefore, to commemorate that, he changed his name to Paul. It is true that the same person is called Saul and Paul. That is true. But nowhere does it say he changed his name or that he did it to repudiate his past life. He did repudiate his past life, but nowhere does it say. But because this gets repeated over and over and over again, it becomes true. And then I repeat it because I heard it. But that's reading into the text. Never says it. So we got to be careful that if we don't want to let other people read in the text, you got to stop doing it. I got to stop doing it. Let's see what the text does say and stick with that. It says enough things, as Elder Doggett showed us on Sunday, it says enough things to make you feel guilty and terrible. You don't have to invent new stuff. It'll keep you busy just working on the stuff it does say. That's hard enough. So, this business that David and Jonathan had a sexual relationship and Jesus and his disciples had a sexual relationship are not in the text. What it implies that he was laying all in his breast, he was all up on top of him. Okay. If the author of the text wanted to say that Jesus had a sexual relationship with the 12 apostles, if he wanted to say that, the Bible is a fairly explicit book. They're perfectly capable of saying it. What you did was you wanted to say it, so you're reading that into it, and you're reading a text and saying it implies something that it doesn't, because you want it to be true. So let's find out what the Bible does say. Let's stick to that. And I won't read into it, and I'm not going to let you do it either. That's the answer. Now you say it, I didn't say it real nice. You say it a little bit nicer. You put a little, say, well, I understand what you're saying. I got you. But, does the Bible actually say that? I mean, is there a place in the Bible where you actually could say that David and Jonathan had a sexual relationship? Is that actually in the text? Or are you deducing that? And what is your deduction based on? Do you have a justification for it that you can explain other than just it sort of seems that way to you? That's a nicer way to say it. So, you say it whatever way you want to say it. Don't get that to people. Okay? Another thing people say is Jesus never said anything negative about homosexuality. That's true. Jesus never said anything negative about homosexuality. Never brought the subject up. Explicitly. Okay. True. Another argument from silence. So if somebody doesn't say something, what can you conclude? No, you can conclude nothing. That's what you can conclude. If I say nothing about something, then you can conclude nothing about what I think about it. Because I didn't say anything. See, people a lot of times, they say, well, you didn't say so-and-so and so, so therefore you agree with it. No. What did Jesus say about cannibalism? Anything? Deacon Mangler? What did Jesus say about cannibalism that you know of? Anything? Deacon Ely? Did Jesus, to your knowledge, say anything about cannibalism? Well, therefore, Jesus believed in cannibalism and he ate people. Oh, come on. Not saying something means nothing. What did Jesus say about bank robbery? Nothing. What did he say about kidnapping? What did Jesus say about rape? He never mentioned it. What does that mean? It means, well, I mean, maybe he did say something about it. We don't have recorded. Jesus said a lot of things which are not written in this book, but these are written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Son of God, that you may have life in his name. So he did a lot of things not written down. But we don't have a record of him saying anything about rape. Does this mean Jesus supported rape? No. Jesus did talk about sexual misconduct in Matthew chapter 15, when the Pharisees confronted him about his disciples didn't wash their hands. In the end of the conversation, he said, it's not what, when you wash your cup, you wash the inside of the cup, not the outside. He said, because it's from inside, from the hearts of men that come evil. And he listed a group of sins. And one of the sins he listed was sexual misconduct. He didn't break that down, but he did care about sexual misconduct. When the woman at the well, when he met her, and she said, well, go get your husband and bring him here and let's talk to him. She said, I don't have a husband. He said, yeah, that's right, you don't. He said, you've had 7 husbands, and the man you're living with now is not your husband. Now, did he say that because he thought that was great? Or was that a criticism? Well, it doesn't say. The text doesn't say. I don't think it was it was not a congratulations for those activities, because she then changed the subject. She's like, so I see you're a prophet. So do we, our fathers worship on this mountain, your fathers worship in Jerusalem. She didn't want to talk about that anymore. It got a little too personal for her. Jesus cared about sexual behavior. I care. You care. We all have to. So on Sunday mornings, we studied the fruits of the Spirit. And they're all wonderful fruits of the Spirit. Most people like love the most, and love is great. My favorite is self-control. Because, first of all, having self-control gives me what I need so I can love people. And the second reason is because without some self-control, there's a whole bunch of stuff this brother out here is doing. Because, I'll be polite and just say there's a bunch of stuff that without self-control I would do, because I know what my life was like when I did not desire to have any self-control. And because I did those things, now it's a challenge for me. I have to have a double measure of self-control to keep myself where I need to be, because I've tasted the good life, and it tasted good. So, all right, we'll stop right here for a second. Anybody have any comments or questions you'd like to make? Anything out there? Comments, questions, funny stories, thoughts? Step in anytime. Okay, so the last thing about the Bible I'm going to tell you, there are only 6 places in the Bible that talk about homosexual conduct. And the homosexual community has a lot of people in it who really, really want to follow Jesus and at the same time engage in homosexual conduct. Now that may seem crazy to you, but it's true. This is a fact. It's just a fact. There's a lot of people who want to want to be involved in homosexual conduct, but they also want to be spiritual. And some of these people are very spiritually minded people. There are whole churches of them, and they aren't all in New York City and San Francisco. There's some right here in Henderson. And so, you know, the Bible is an attractive thing. So if somebody's struggling with some kind of sinful behavior and they want to justify it, that doesn't mean they don't want to follow Jesus anymore. They might want both. And that's why people have taken each of these six scriptures that talk about homosexual conduct, and they've explained each of them away. And I could go through each one of them, but for the sake of time, because there's something else I want to talk about, I'm going to tell you they have explanations for each of them. So, for example, Sodom and Gomorrah. I'll give you that example. They say the sin that the men of Sodom committed was not homosexuality. The sin was violence. They wanted to violently rape some other men. So the sin is not that it was men. It's that they wanted to rape and be violent against someone's will. Creative. Other texts, like in Leviticus, it prohibits a man lying with a man, a woman lying with a woman. They say, well, that's talking about not generally homosexual conduct. That's talking about idol prostitution. You know, some religions have prostitution as a part of their religion. And sometimes it's same-sex prostitution as a part of their religious worship. That may also seem crazy to you, but in the ancient Near East it was very common. So they say that's what that's condemning. Not that a man lies with a man, but that a man lies with a man in idol worship. Once again, does the text say that? Go back and look at the text and look at the verses before it and the verses after it. It's a section all about all the ways that you can commit sexual misconduct. There's no mention of idolatry in any of it. But that's, you know, if you want to say that somebody who gave you a place to stay for 6 months for free now owes you money because you stored your little thing in the corner, and you want the money, you need the money, you can come up with an explanation to explain why somebody owes you money, even though they gave you a place to stay for free because you got kicked out of the last place you were in. And so, don't be shocked. These people are winnable. We can win them to Jesus. But what we have to do is we have to break down their arguments. We have to love them, and we have to listen to them. You got to listen to their nonsense without throwing up. And then we got to love them. And then we got to say, well, let's go back and look at those texts that you're saying what they mean. Let's see if it says any of those things you're saying are in there. And then we got to be honest enough, somebody who actually is willing to rethink it, that we got to be wise enough to identify this person is really open to thinking about it, and this other person, they're not. They're just messing with me, and so I'm gonna leave them alone. We got to figure out who deserves our attention to follow up and help them, instead of wasting our time arguing with somebody when you're just arguing with a brick wall. You got to be wise enough to know which is which. And y'all are some slick people, so I know y'all can handle that. Okay. I have other things I can say about about the Bible and this, but I want to move to one other area. So people who want to convince you that it's okay to engage in homosexual conduct, another thing they will do is appeal to your sentimentality. And you know, that's a good move, because I am sentimental toward people. I'm sentimental toward you. I am. I like to fuss with Elder Doggett because he's fun to fuss with. But if somebody wants to mess with him, they're going to have to mess with me. Because that's my brother. I'm sentimental. I may be quicker to overlook a mistake that Hope makes because she's my sister. I'm sentimental. Anything wrong with that? No? No. It's supposed to be that way. And so people will appeal your sentimentality. But here's my question about sentimentality. Are you God? You sure? Do you get to decide what's right and wrong? Do you get to decide on the last day who's going to be punished and who's not? Who's going to be blessed? Did you create the world? Did you create the heavens, stars? You the one that put fish in the sea? So do you get to make the rules? Because sometimes I think I do. But Deacon Mangrum thinks that's funny, so that makes me doubt maybe I don't get to make the rules. He's shaking his head, no, I don't. Okay, well, maybe I don't. And so, for example, what's that? I get to follow him. Well, that's not enough power. I like a little more than that. So, one of the things that people will say is they'll say, well, it's easy for you to criticize people who are homosexuals. Wait till your child comes home and tells you they're homosexual. So I'm going to ask you, when your child does come home, or your brother, or your mother, or your uncle, or your favorite cousin looks at you and says, well, you know, I always knew that I was different, and so I need to come out of the closet with you. Are you going to say, well, maybe it is okay because I love that person so much? That's personal now. And guess what? All of us, if you haven't already, you're going to deal with this. And if you haven't, the reason why you haven't is because you weren't paying attention. It's already happened to you. And so you got to decide. And this doesn't mean you have to curse them out, tell them they're going to hell, tell them you never want to talk to them. I didn't say that. I didn't say it. But you got to decide, are you going to decide that it's okay because you're sentimental toward the person who is engaging in it? You will be forced to decide this. I promise you. You already have. When you watch TV, you go to the movies, your favorite singer, actor, or personality or influencer comes out that they're homosexual. You're like, yeah, but I always liked Freddie Mercury. And, man, his music, man, I love that music. Well, I might disagree with him, but man, I still love his music. I love Elton John. I love, whoever. I love these people. So I can't go against them. And if I go against them, people are going to criticize me. And they're going to look down on me. But you see, everyone who follows Jesus is going to be persecuted. Everybody. That's in the scriptures. So if you're not willing to be persecuted, I question whether you really love Jesus. Because remember, we worship. Don't forget, we worship a man who was executed as a criminal. You realize how crazy this is? You worship a criminal who was not just a criminal, but a criminal who was executed for sedition, for trying to overthrow the government. They tried him, they found him guilty, they convicted him, they sentenced him, and they executed that man. And you worship him. So you see, you can't worship somebody like that and then say, I'm not willing to stand up against the world's teachings. Now, they said they executed him because he tried to overthrow the government. The reason they executed that man was because he looked them right straight in the face and he said, I love you, but you're wrong. You're whitewashed tombs. You're a pit of vipers. You want to lift you won't even lift your little finger to do the things that you command others to do. You're hypocrites. And he didn't say it to be mean. He said it because they were. And if you can't do that, then you're not walking like he walked. Now, there's a time and a place and a way to do it. Remember, I said y'all are slick, so use all your slickness. Be slick now. Don't just run around saying a bunch of ugly stuff to people because you're afraid that you're not unlike Jesus enough. You got to be slick in how you do it. But you have to be willing to look people in the face, even your own child, and say, what you're doing is wrong, and you're going to suffer consequences for it. I still love you, but I don't condone it, not one little bit. And you're not, I'm going to help you in your life, but I ain't helping you with this. I'm not cooperating, not condoning it. I'm not going to be ugly, but no. You're not getting any help from me with that. In fact, and I'm not going to, every time I see you, say something about it, but only because I'm going to be biting my tongue. You got to look at people and tell them what you're doing is flat out wrong. And furthermore, you know it's wrong. I'm merely telling you something you already know. And I know you got all your explanations for why it's okay, but the fact that you have to explain it so much is proof that you know it's wrong. But, you go be you. Some other ways that people appeal to your sentimentality. They have slogans like, trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights. Now, let's analyze that. Trans rights are human rights. Okay, do people have human rights? Yeah. You have a right not to be murdered by other people. You have a right to breathe. Do you have a right to be a transsexual? And if so, justify your answer. Where does this right come from? The right for a man to say, I'm a woman. Well, you see, you got to understand that gender is fluid. Okay, that's fine. But where does your right for you, being a man, to say you're a woman, where do you get this right from? And why does it overrule my right to say you're a liar? You're not a woman, you're a man. Why does that overrule my right to tell the truth? I don't need to be ugly about it, but why is it that I have to, not only do you have this right that you plucked out of thin air, why is it that your right means I have to go along with it? Says who?
Free will?
When you say free will, what do you mean? Sure, you can say it.
He's in the right.
Yeah.
But he's in the right to say whatever.
And I think in America, if a man wants to say I'm a woman, he has a right to say it. In America, you have a right to say that. Our Constitution gives you free speech, freedom of assembly, So you can say it. And I have the right to say you're not. But you see, what this community wants to do is they want to say, you can't work for the government unless you call me by the pronoun that I insist is my correct pronoun. And now job applications have your name, your address, social security number, and your pronoun. My pronoun, by the way, is Your Royal Majesty. So from now on, I wish for you all to address me as Your Royal Majesty. That's my pronoun. But, you know, says who? Another appeal to sentimentality is, you see, your problem is you're homophobic, you're transphobic, and you're hateful. You know what phobia means? What does phobia mean? If you have a phobia, what do you have? Fear. You have fear. So if I disagree with bank robbers, that means I'm bank robber phobic? If I think it's wrong to rob banks? Does it mean if I think it's a bad idea to walk up to people in the street and punch them in the face for no reason? Does that mean that I'm hateful? That I criticize somebody for doing that? It's not hateful. I can do it in a hateful way. If you go around punching people in the face and I grab you by the scruff of your neck and stick your head in the toilet over and over and over again and then kick you for doing that, well, that could be hateful. Yeah. What's that? I mean, I'm violent and hateful. But if I just say, hey, bro, that's a bad idea, and I'm going to call the police, that's not hateful. Nothing hateful. You see, this is the trick that people who want to engage in, this is the trick, like Lenny's trick, that you owe me for letting you store your stuff in my room that you paid for after I got kicked out. That's the trick. The trick is that somehow, when you criticize someone for their immoral and irresponsible behavior, that means you're being hateful. It does not. When you correct someone for doing something wrong, that's an act of love. It might be painful for that person to hear it. I know, because I got lots of whoopings growing up. It was painful. You ever gotten one? Did you like it? You want some more? No. Was it good? It was, unfortunately, it was good for me, but at the time I didn't like it. That didn't mean anybody hated me. Hate, disagreement is not hate. You see, a father disciplines his son because he loves him. And when you discipline someone for their irresponsible behavior, whether they agree, disagree, whether they like it or don't like it, it's an act of love. And I think, for example, if people don't like Christianity and they criticize me for being a Christian, I don't tell them they hate me. They're just trying to help me. They might be wrong, but it's okay. I don't take it as an act of hate. It's not hateful to disagree. So this is a trick. So what you have to do is confront people, say, why do you call it hate when all I'm doing is telling you I disagree? Why do you call me phobic? I don't fear you. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not transphobic. It's not like, oh, there are transsexuals around. Oh, I'm scared. No, I'm not scared. I'm just telling you what you're doing is crazy and it's wrong. Get over it. Deal with it. And by the way, I'm not just saying it. It is wrong. And you are wrong. And you need to stop. Because I love you. That's why I'm telling you. And there are others, but I'll mention one more. You're born that way. So you can't, this is the key argument. You have to accept me as I am. And Jesus did that because God made me that way and I was born that way. Well, let's say every other act of sexual misconduct, you could say you were born that way. For the sake of not being vulgar, I won't list all the sexual behaviors that could be an act of misconduct. But you've been around long enough, use your imagination. What if every one of those I could say, I was born that way? What kind of world would this be? I mean, let's say, just to give an example, let's say I was born a rapist. I'm just naturally a rapist. So therefore, it's okay to rape people because I was born that way. I just have an extra, what most people have, sort of a 12 volts. I got 24 volts and I can't control myself. I mean, that's just, that's just crazy. It's funny. It's ridiculous. I was born that way. I was born a bank robber, so I rob banks. I can't help it. Come on. You were born to make choices. So make one, homeboy. Stand up like a man and make a choice. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to list all the things I've done wrong because I'm ashamed of them. But I'm going to tell you, there's some things that I thought at the time, there's no way in the world I ever overcome this. But I have. There's some others I'm still working on. But there's some things I've changed. Some of them took some time and they took some effort. So we have to give people the strength and the courage to see that the God who created the heavens and the earth can change your little old problem. But I've tried and I just can't do it. Well, try some more. Get back up on that horse. Get up on that horse and ride it some more. But I was going to kill myself because don't kill yourself, but get back in the game. God, we're so grateful that you let us stay in the game. And that you give us power. We're not you, God. We didn't create the heavens and earth, but we know that you gave us the power over our own lives, over our own self-control, over our own discipline. We believe it. And we believe that the other people who are beaten down, trodden on, have given up, don't believe that they can do the things that they need to do. God, let us be their strength. Let us be the one to give them hope. Let us be the one who tells them, you got it in you, bro. You can do it. Thank you, Lord, that you gave us that kind of backbone. And Lord, you gave us enough backbone. We can cut a little bit of our backbone out and give it to somebody else. Thank you, God. You are mighty and powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-loving. There's nothing you cannot do. And Lord, we know most people, even people who really believe in you, they don't believe you can do that. And we do. Give us the opportunity to help just one person who can't do it find out that they can. It's in the name of Jesus that we pray. Amen. And I hand the service over to our pastor.